Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today I will be doing a spoiler talk for The Last of Us Remastered. And of course, I already told you guys in the last video why I'm doing this video, and I already told you guys in the last video why I did the game review for The Last of Us Remastered. It's because the reason why I'm doing these two videos is because of how the sequel is arriving, or should I say is releasing next month worldwide, and you know, a lot of people are very excited for the sequel, and I'm really excited for the sequel. So in order to celebrate, you know, the upcoming release of the sequel, I just wanted to make a game review for the first game and a spoiler talk for the first game. So of course, guys, remember guys, this is a spoiler talk, so there will be spoilers ahead for the first game. And like I said, if you guys have not played the first game, and if you guys did want to play for yourself before the sequel releases next month, leave this video, because I do not want you guys to have spoil for yourselves. Or if you guys don't even care about spoilers, if you just want to watch this video, hey, welcome. But if you guys have already played this game and you guys, you know, want to, you know, see my thoughts on this game, hey, welcome as well. Like, welcome to you guys as well. But anyways, guys, I'm going to be talking about spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So, The Last of Us Remastered, or The Last of Us, I should say. So, The Last of Us Remastered, of course, is the first game of this, you know, little series, and, you know, it's like a whole lot of things that happen in common. It's a zombie outbreak that happens. You play as this guy, Joel. He's a father, and how the way the game starts off is just nuts. Like, remember, guys, I played this game 2 years ago, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed the crap out of the first game. Like, the first game was amazing. Like, the first Last of Us game was just incredible, and it was just a great story. But anyways, guys, so of course you play as this guy Joel. He's a father, and you know, he has a daughter. Her name is Sarah, and what happens is that, you know, the whole outbreak happens at the very beginning of the game, and what you have to do is that you're basically playing as Sarah for a while, and you're following her father Joel, and you're with her uncle. You're with her uncle as well, and his name is Tommy. Of course, that's Joel's brother. And what happens, of course, is that, you know, they try to escape the city since the whole outbreak is happening. Like, people are just turning into zombies. It's very chaotic. You know, it's just very chaotic. Cars are crashing. Explosions were happening. Like, it was just nuts. And then what happens is that, you know, you almost escape the city, but the only problem is that this one soldier just comes out of nowhere, and he's from the government, of course. So this soldier from the government just comes out of absolutely nowhere, and he just, you know, kind of stops Joel and Sarah from escaping, because he actually kind of thinks that, you know, they were infected, and Joel kept telling them, hey, we're not infected. Like, he kept telling him, hey man, like, we're not infected, just let us go, I just want to take my daughter out of here. But then the soldier was talking to, like, his, like, commander, or whoever, yeah, it was his commander he was talking to, and then he was telling him, hey, there are civilians right here that are in front of me. But then the commander tells the soldier to kill them. So what happens is that they try to run, they get knocked down, but but Joel doesn't get killed. But when Joel looks the other way, his daughter Sarah was shot by the soldier, and apparently Sarah dies in Joel's arms. And then Uncle Tom, like I said, Tommy, Joel's brother Tommy, he you know, he meets up with them. But then once he meets up with them, what he does is that Tommy just shoots the soldier that shot Sarah, and then Tommy sees Joel holding Sarah, and you know, he sees her holding Sarah as Sarah is dying, and then what happens is that Sarah dies in Joel's arms, and then it moves on to, like, you know, the opening credits for the game. And then what happens is that once the opening credits are done, you know, these words appear, and it says 20 years later. So what happens is that, you know, it's a time jump, and it takes place, the game basically takes place like 20 years later after the whole outbreak happened, and it also happens after Joel's daughter died. And yeah, so it kind of shows you how civilization has fallen to the ground, And you also you're also with this lady. Her name is Tessa. Not Tessa. Her name is Tess. Or I believe it was yeah, it was Tess. Yeah, it was Tess. Yeah, that's what it was. And you're with Tess or Tessa. It was one of the. I mean, it's still technically the same name. It's just that Tess is just a nickname for Tessa. But anyways, so you're with Tessa, or Tess, I should say. You're with her, and what happens is that you meet up. You meet this other lady. Her name is Marlene. She's the queen of the Fireflies, which is a group of mercenaries and stuff. Like, they're just like a dangerous group. And what happens is that Marlene, she tells Joel and Tess that they had to go ahead and escort this girl named Ellie. And of course, Ellie, of course, is the little girl you see. Like, that's the little girl that you see on the cover of the game. And so what happens is that the whole point of the game is that you have to escort Ellie to the Fireflies. And they're another group that are out across the country. And what you have to do is that you have to escort Ellie across the country. And man, oh man, it gets nuts as the game just goes on. Like, the game just gets more and more chaotic as it goes. Like, it's just absolutely nuts. So what happens is that while you're trying to escort Ellie, what happens is that you get caught. Like I said, you get caught up in some dangerous activities where you do have to deal with a few zombies, and you have to deal with a few a few other human beings, because you like I said, you actually do fight humans in this game as well. Like, you don't just fight zombies. Like, you also fight humans in this game as well. Like, yeah, you fight other humans in this game as well. And then what happens is that there's a bit of a tragedy that happens. So what happens is that your friend Tess, like Joel's friend Tess, she gets infected because she gets bit by one of the zombies that you had to fight as you were going on in the game. So Tess gets bit and she gets infected, and then Ellie was the one who realized it. She was like, wait a minute, you're infected, aren't you? And then Joel, he tells Tess, he's like, let me see the bite. And then she shows them the bite, and then they're all, like I said, Ellie and Joel, they're just in shock. They're sad that Tess got infected. And what happens is that, government soldiers, they're kind of like hunting down Joel and Ellie and Tess. So what happens is that Tess, she tells Joel and Ellie to just keep going without her. And Tess, what happens is that she kind of, she buys them some time, to get away. But what happens is that Tess actually gets killed by the soldiers, and she gets killed by the soldiers. And then what happens is that it's literally just Joel and Ellie. Like, you're literally just stuck with Ellie. Like, you have no one else. Like, it's just you and Ellie. You're just escorting Ellie. Like, that's the whole objective. Like, you're escorting Ellie to the Fireflies, but you actually run into these other couple of people. Their name is Henry and Sam. That was actually their names. Their names were Henry and Sam, and they're brothers. And what happens is that, of course, you kind of team up with them for a while. You kind of join forces with them, and you become friends with them. You kind of build a bit of a relationship with the two of them. And then everyone's kind of getting to know each other. Like, they're starting to know each other. Like, they're getting a chance to know each other. Well, what happens is that, of course, how you have to deal with zombies. And what happens is that the little brother Sam gets infected, and what happens is that Sam, he attacks Ellie, and Joel tries to kill Sam, but then Henry kind of like shoots at Joel, saying, that's my brother, don't kill him. So what happens is that Henry actually ends up killing his own brother Sam, because his own brother Sam got infected. And of course what happens is that Henry is freaking out. He's very upset. He's sad that he lost his brother, but he had to kill his brother because he was gonna like hurt other people since he was infected. So what happens is that Henry, he decides to kill himself like right after he kills Sam. So like he literally just takes his gun and just shoots himself in the head. And then Joel and Ellie, they're in a huge amount of shock. And then Joel, like when Joel like sees, like I said, when Ellie and Joel see Henry kill himself with his gun, it's like Joel is literally just sitting there, like not sitting there, but he's standing there. He's like, oh, that is brutal. Because like he felt bad for both of them. And so did Ellie. Like, they felt bad for the two of them. So what happens is that another time jump happens. So what happens is that it moves on to fall time. And what happens is that during the fall time, you meet up with Joel's brother, Tommy. He gets his, Tommy, he has a wife. He's kind of settled down with his wife. And they kind of have a community. Like Tommy and his wife, they're in a bit of community that they run, because the two of them, they run a community, and they have like their own bit of soldiers and all that, to kind of defend themselves from any outsiders. So what happens is that, Tommy and his wife, they bring Joel and Ellie into their community, and they give, Joel and Ellie a bit of shelter. And of course what happens is that, of course, you have to deal with more zombies and human, and well, actually in this point you didn't really have to deal with zombies at this point. It was like more like human enemies you had to fight. So you had to fight human enemies, of course. And what happens is that you have to leave. Well, actually no, not yet, because you don't leave Tommy's place just yet, because like Ellie, she runs away, and Ellie runs away. And you have to go ahead and follow her. And it's really cool, too, because that's another thing about Ellie. Like, Ellie, her character is awesome in this game. And not only that, but Ellie actually learns how to use guns in this game, which is, like, really cool, because it truly shows of how Joel is telling Ellie, okay, you need to defend yourself at certain moments, like, just in case, like, Joel is basically, like, trying to explain to her, like, okay, maybe, he's like, okay, maybe you are ready to use these guns. And, just in case if I'm not there with you at certain times, I still need to teach you how to use certain guns. So he teaches her how to use guns. And what happens is that, Ellie, she does take down, a few people, of course. You have to chase Ellie down because she runs away from you and Tommy. And you have to try to, get her back. So you end up getting her back. And then, of course, you have to deal with more human enemies. And then you head back to Tommy's place, and you have to leave again in order to get Ellie to the Fireflies. And then what happens is that a few moments after that, like a few, like I want to say it's like a few moments, but I guess maybe like it's probably a few days later, but I guess a few moments later. But what happens is that, Joel is caught by surprise by this human enemy that just comes out of nowhere. Because after you take down a huge group of enemies, there's no one else there, but then a cutscene happens where an enemy just comes out of nowhere, like a human enemy just comes out of nowhere, and he tries to, like Joel tries to like get the enemy off of him, and what happens is that Joel, like he's at a very high level, and what happens is that Joel and the enemy, they end up falling. Joel gets impaled by this piece of metal. It was very brutal, so he gets impaled by like this piece of metal through the gut. And then what happens is that Ellie, she has to help Joel up, try to help Joel get him out of there. So Ellie, she gets Joel to safety, and then another time jump happens, and then it goes to the winter time. And what happens is that, during the winter time, and this is one of the best levels of the game too. So when a time jumps to the winter time, during the winter time, what happens is that you actually get to play as Ellie, and not only that, but Ellie actually knows how to kill people now. And I mean, like I said, she knows how to kill people now with guns, and she actually becomes a hunter during the winter time. Like, you're actually kind of hunting animals down, like, for food. You know, you're taking care of Joel because Joel is still in really bad shape. And what happens is that you meet this guy named David, and he kind of assists Ellie for a while, and then he tells Ellie, he's like, you know, my men, this is what David says. He says, you know, my men have been telling me that there's this grown man with this little girl who's been taking all of my men out. And then he asks Ellie, he's like, do you know anything about that? And then it's like, holy crap. And then Ellie is literally just telling the guy, wait, back off, man. Like, Ellie just gets her bow and arrow. She just points her bow and arrow at David. And then she tells him, hey, back off. Like, we're just doing whatever we need to do in order to survive in the society. Like, or I shouldn't even say society. Like, it's more of a, like civilization that's kind of like burned to the ground if you think about it. Like, I mean, it has burned to the ground. So what happens is that he's like, okay, you know what? If you join forces with us, we'll provide you with shelter and food and stuff. But then he said, if you leave, we're gonna have to hunt you down, Ellie. So technically that's what happens is that, okay, you check on Joel. He's still perfectly fine because Ellie has to make sure that Joel is still safe. So what happens is that you have to go back out and you have to kind of, I forgot what happened. Okay, so you check on Joel, and then you go back out there on your horse, because Ellie knows how to ride a horse now, because Joel taught her how to ride a horse. Well, actually, no. She actually already knew how to ride a horse. Like, Joel and Tommy, the two of them, they didn't have to teach Ellie how to ride a horse, because she already knew how to ride a horse. But yeah, so she gets on her horse, she's like going back out there, and David's men, they're trying to kill Ellie. And what you have to do is that you have to take down all of David's enemies. I mean, not enemies. I mean, technically, yeah, you do. I mean, yeah. So what happens is that you have to take down all of David's men. You have to kill each and every one of each enemy. And then what happens is that once you do that, David, he captures you. Like, he captures Ellie, and then what happens is that, like, there's a cutscene where David captures Ellie, and then what happens is that you get to play as Joel again, and then when you have to play as Joel, when you play as Joel, you actually have to go out there, and you have to rescue Ellie from David and all of David's men. So you have to keep taking down all the enemies and stuff, and I gotta say, man, some of the enemies were tough. Like, honestly, because all the enemies that are there in the game is that there's these regular zombies. They're called runners, and these other type of zombie, and then there's this other type of zombie where it's more infected than the other zombies, and it's more fungus on it too. Those are called bloaters. They're bigger zombies that are more infected, and they're tougher to take down. And then there are these other type of zombies. They're called clickers, where they won't be able to see you, but they can actually hear you. So you have to be very careful, because clickers can actually hear you. But yeah, so what happens is that you have to take down all the human enemies, and then what happens is that Joel is interrogating these two henchmen of David, and he's interrogating them. He's like, where is Ellie? And then they tell him where she's at. And then what happens is that you get to play as Ellie again as she escapes from David. And you have to try to escape David and all of his henchmen. And what happens is that you actually have to fight David, like, with hand-to-hand combat. Like, you actually have to fight David playing as Ellie. Like, when you're playing as Ellie, you have to fight David. And Ellie, what happens is that it's a cutscene, and it just shows how Ellie just kills David. And it's very brutal how she kills David. And then Joel finds Ellie. He's like, it's okay. Like, I understand he's like, I understand like the frustration you're going through right now. So he hugs Ellie. It's kind of like a father and daughter kind of relationship that they were kind of building up in this first game. Cause like Ellie and Joel, they were kind of Ellie and Joel were developing a father and daughter relationship with each other. So what happens is that after winter time happens, it's another time jump that happens. You go directly into spring, and what happens is that, of course, you know, once you go into spring, you play as Joel again, and what happens is that, you know, you're almost there. You're almost at the Fireflies shelter or medical shelters, and that's where you have to drop Ellie off in order for them to make a cure for the whole outbreak of infection, so that way they can treat the infection. So what happens is that Ellie and Joel, they get captured by the Fireflies, and Marlene actually meets up with them, and Marlene tells Joel that they're prepping Ellie for surgery, and what happens is that Joel is like, wait, what do you mean prepping her for surgery? So what happened is that they had to cut out pieces of her brain in order to, form a cure for the infection. So that's what they have to do, is that they have to, they're gonna have to kill her in order to, make a cure, in order to make a vaccine or, well, yeah, cure. But yeah, so they have to kill Ellie in order to create a cure for the infection, in order to cure people. And so what happens is that Joel, he's literally just killing all the Fireflies, and what happens is that he kills the surgeons that are doing surgery on Ellie. So he kills them, he takes Ellie, he escapes the hospital, and he escapes the hospital, and of course, as he escapes, he runs into Marlene. Marlene tries to stop him, so what happens is that Joel, he ends up, killing Marlene, and then what happens is that a few moments later, when they escape the hospital, Joel tells Ellie that Ellie is like, wait, what happened? And then what happens is that Joel lies to Ellie, saying that there are other people just like you who are able to cure the human race. And that's the lie that Joel tells Ellie, that there are other people like Ellie who are able to, use themselves in order to make a cure. So he lies to Ellie, and what happens is that it's kind of like another time jump that happens. So what happens is that you head on back to Tommy's place, and that's where you settle in. And that's technically where the game ends, is that once you head back to Tommy's place, that's where the game ends. But the only thing is that Ellie, this is how the game ends. So they make it back to Tommy's place in Jacksonville, and what happens is that Ellie, she asked Joel, she was like, were you telling me the truth, that there are other people like me who are able to use themselves in order to make a cure? And then she says, swear to me, Joel, that you were not lying to me, saying that there are other people like me who they were able to make a cure out of. And then Joel is like, I swear. And then what happens is that Joel, he says, I swear. And then Ellie, she believes Joel, she believes Joel, and then she says, okay. And then that's where the game ends. So the game literally just ends like that. And there's also a Left Behind DLC. 2 years ago, I also did play the Left Behind DLC. Like I said, guys, I 100% completed The Last of Us. I fully completed the first Last of Us game. I completed everything for the first Last of Us game. Like I said, I completed the main story and I completed the DLC. And yeah, so what happens is that, you know, it's a bit of a flashback that happens, and you know, Riley was actually one of Ellie's friends. Riley actually ended up getting killed because she got bit. Like, it truly explains, like, if you play the Left Behind DLC, it explains how Ellie got bit by it explains how Ellie got bit, and it explains how her friend Riley got killed by the infection since she got bit. And then that's where the DLC also ended as well. It also ended with the two of them, and then it also explained like how Riley had died due to the infection. Actually, Ellie actually tells Joel at the end of the first game, like during the main story, like at the very end of the main story for the first game, Ellie tells Joel that she had a friend named Riley, and he tells her that she was the first one who got bit and she got killed by the infection. And then of course, you know, that's where the game truly ends, where Ellie of course asked Joel if that's where you know, Ellie asked Joel if he was lying to her about if there was other people. I mean, let me restart. I cannot speak. Alright. So basically, of course, I already said this just a few moments ago, of course, you know, that's where the game ends. Of course, like, after, you know, Ellie tells Joel about, you know, her friend Riley who got killed, since Riley was the first one who got bit, and she got killed first. Well, I shouldn't say kill first, but like she was the one who got bit first, and then she died. But that's like after, you know, Ellie tells Joel about her friend Riley who got killed by the infection. She asked Joel, of course, you know, I know I just said this a few moments ago. Like, I already know I just said this a few months ago. I'm just a few moments ago. Like, I know I said it, but I'm just gonna like say it one more time. But like, because I had to make you guys like truly understand like the whole timeline. I mean, even though I know most of you understand the timeline, but you know, I'm just trying to like, you know, get the timeline in order for the first game. But yeah, so she asked Joel, you know, were you lying to me about there being other people who are just like me who are able to be used for a cure? And then Joel is like, yes, he's like, I swear I was telling the truth. And then Ellie is like, okay, because, you know, she asked Joel to swear to her if he was telling the truth, and he says, I swear I was telling the truth. And then Ellie's like, okay. And then that's where the game ends. Like, the game literally just ends right there. But yeah, this is like the spoiler talk for the first Last of Us game. The first was for the Last of Us Remastered. This is for like the spoiler talk for the first game. But leave it down in the comment section below. Did you guys enjoy the spoiler talk? And did you guys enjoy the first game? And leave it down in the comment section below. Are you guys really excited for the sequel as much as I am? And I really can't see. I really can't wait. That's what I meant to say. I really can't wait. That's what I meant to say. But I really can't wait to see what happens in the sequel. And I really want to see where they're going to go in the sequel. And yeah, so leave it down in the comment section below if you guys enjoyed this spoiler talk. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next game review. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next game review. And of course, there will be new videos being released later on today, of course. So yeah, so I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and have a good night, guys. Alright, see you guys, and peace out.